I also love treats. Oh, hi. Welcome to the Fire Fam. You're listening to the latest podcast of 2025, Fire Chats. And I'm your host, Lucy Rint, and this is my standard poodle bow. So, without further ado, strike a match, settle in, and let's get chatting. Touch noses. Welcome back to Fire Chats. I'm your host, Lucy Rint, and today we're getting unfiltered. So, I wanted today's episode to kind of feel like you're sitting by the fire with a friend and you're having those truthful, honest conversations that you don't normally see on those highlight reels. Today, I'm going to be opening up about something that has shaped the last couple years of my life, and I'll be talking about what happened to my health and how I'm rebuilding myself up from there. So, teaching. I taught for 4 years and I loved teaching. I genuinely loved working as a teacher, helping others, and just getting to be creative and help people learn because I love learning as well. And I find so much importance and value in learning. And all the while I was doing this while I had a chronic health condition that had no answers. So something that people didn't really see was when I was working as a teacher, the whole time I was teaching, I was dealing with this health issue and I didn't really know what it was. It started after I got a virus and it never went away. And I still deal with it today. And something that was hard when teaching was that students and staff didn't really see it because it's an invisible illness, obviously. And I had a lot of shortness of breath, chronic fatigue, heart palpitations, severe shortness of breath even when talking, and made it really difficult to project to a classroom. And just I wasn't able to pace myself properly, which was my biggest issue as a teacher. Dealing with this health condition is not being able to physically pace myself. So obviously, whoever here listening, if you're a teacher, you know it's a job that requires your 100% attention at any time. So if I need to rest or if I feel really short of breath or unwell at that time, despite something else going on that might need my attention, I couldn't pace myself. I just had to deal with it. And that led to me being in a vicious cycle where I couldn't keep up and I felt like I was treading water and I could barely keep my head above it. Basically, the expectation of having to feel like you have to be on all the time as a teacher is just something I couldn't tolerate anymore, and I knew I had to do something to change it. When I was teaching, I did have some minor accommodations that I felt that I struggled to get in place to begin with, but even with those accommodations, I still felt unwell, of course, and there are some days where I would be using my electric wheelchair and some days where I wouldn't need to use it just because I'd either want to stretch my legs or I felt that I could stand and walk, and that's the ultimate goal for me is I wanted to get back to who I was, and I felt very judged around doing that and using the mobility aid when I needed it and versus not using it. So I think that also left confusion, of course, I guess in other people's eyes, like staff who were accommodating me and just students and staff in general. And I think it's just like a confusing condition for people to try and understand because I didn't even understand it. And I definitely was affected and impacted negatively because of that. I even had a staff member say to me one time in like a weird hostile tone, kind of like, why are you using an electric scooter? And like said it with like as if I shouldn't be using one. And I just replied, like I answered the question. And of course, you don't have to give an answer to something like that. But that person was a staff a member, a colleague, and I didn't want anything to be awkward, but I definitely regret the way I answered. I probably should have just kept it more brief, but that's okay. You live and you learn. So now, fast forward to a couple years later, I do have some answers for what I was kind of dealing with at the time that other people didn't like thought maybe they knew what I was dealing with, but didn't, I guess, like because I didn't even really know and doctors didn't really know. And so it was really hard to hear from people saying, "Oh, try this, try that." Like it was nice, but it wasn't helping me a lot of the things that people were saying that this helped me and you should try this. Like comparing each other's illnesses to the other, and that's something I find really tough is when someone compares an illness that they think is the same as yours to theirs, and because it's not the same, and everybody's personal experience with a physical health issue is going to be different. But some of the things that I have been told that I have is I have POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So my heart will go fast at random times, and which causes a lot of other symptoms. So dizziness, shortness of breath, and just overall unwellness, chronic fatigue. If you Google POTS, it has a bunch of symptoms. So those are just some of the ones that really affect me, but there's obviously little ones here and there. And then I have low blood sugar, which it's not diabetes, it's called reactive hypoglycemia, but they don't even know if that's what it is for sure. And I have to do further testing for that. And I have fibromyalgia, I've been told. Not that I really even know what that is, and myofascial pain and tension in my myofascial muscles, I guess. I just take it one day at a time, knowing all of that, and try to ignore the label and ignore what it's called and not think about that too much. Of course, obviously, I know what I have, but I don't think about the actual label, and I just kind of look at the symptoms I'm dealing with on a day to day basis and deal with those and move forward each day dealing with those symptoms. So when I was working, it came to a point where I just felt that my health and my energy was more important than any job could do for me. And no paycheck, no amount of energy spent, no external expectation is worth feeling, I don't know, like broken every day after you leave a job and feeling like helpless, like you're not able to catch your breath, you feel behind, you feel like your physical symptoms when you're dealing with a chronic health condition, when you're in a cycle that keeps making them set you back, that's how I felt every day, that I would get set back every day after leaving work. And that was just not something I found to be healthy or feasible. So I made the decision to leave teaching. So when I stepped away from teaching, at first everything was really quiet. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. But also, it felt kind of scary because I didn't really know what I was doing. I felt like, okay, I need to get better and I need to try and get stronger. But it was definitely scary because it was like, well, what am I going to do now? One thing I did start doing was mental and physical therapy, which really helped me to learn about who I am and my physical health and how to get stronger in both regards. And in doing so, I came to the conclusion, and the question is, what does healing really look like for me as an individual? Something I was encouraged to do by multiple physicians and therapists was to get outside, go outdoors, and to, even if you can't walk far or do anything too physically demanding, just sit outside on the patio, stretch if you can, do gentle stretching and deep breathing and pyramid breathing, which is something that my respiratory physiotherapist actually taught me about and got me working towards helping with the breathing pattern disorder that I was dealing with, which is all to do with a virus that I had. And this breathing is what really helped me to, almost like it was a meditative act. And I felt a sense of peace outside when doing the pyramid breathing, and I felt whole. Whereas before, when I wasn't doing those things, I felt like I was missing a sense of who I was, and that helped me find who I really was throughout the healing process. I was also encouraged to find hobbies and to find, uh, I guess, something to do that wouldn't cause me to overdo it physically, that was feasible for me to handle. And so I turned to floral arrangements, which is funny. I don't know why. Well, I kind of do. I was trying to think of ways I can connect to the earth for healing. And I like read a lot of stuff about putting your hands in dirt and soil and how that's actually really good for you and can help heal people. And so I was doing that, just like not doing anything physical. I was just kind of putting my hands in the dirt. I put seeds in the dirt that I was using, and I planted some flowers. And with those flowers, I created some bouquets, which just started out as something little, like a little fun outdoor activity for me. And it was easy enough to do with the help of my husband and my brother and my mom. And friends that came over to help me, and then I would get to put the floral arrangement together, which was quite fun and very calming, really, and mentally made me feel like, oh, I'm doing something, like I'm able to actually do something physically in some way that created something beautiful and that I could potentially either use for myself or sell. So, with enough of these little bouquets getting made by me, my husband, he made a farm stand for me out of all recycled material that we had left over from the Sumas Prairie floods. And I was so thankful that he made the farm stand because I actually had a place to put the arrangements I was making, the floral arrangements. And it was so nice to see people actually buy them and to support my little hobby. And then eventually this hobby kind of turned into a business because I had other people asking, "Oh, can you make florals for my anniversary or my wedding or whatever it was, my engagement party?" And then with the help of like family, I said, "Sure." And so of course I'm not going to be able to make all of those by myself. I'm thinking, "Okay, this is a little daunting," but in the space that I had created for myself in the a slow-paced manner, I was able to achieve these things and gave me a sense of hope because then I realized, oh, I don't need to be in a school setting where I feel like I'm constantly having to be on and randomly I'll have to do this and nothing's predictable. Whereas when I'm working for myself, I can predict what's happening, I can get help, I can do what I can do. And if I can't do any more, then I stop. And that's literally the most exciting thing for someone who wasn't able to do a lot physically before. So it just helps you build stamina and it helps you build strength mentally, which helps you physically. And it's just all a big balancing game between your physical and mental health, honestly. So when starting a business, I want to be honest, it is scary. Of course, you know, you don't know if it's going to be successful. You don't know if people are going to like what you're putting out there. And yeah, it's scary. It honestly is, but it's also exciting. I find it very thrilling and I enjoy creating different things and having people use my product or, you know, hold my arrangement in their wedding photos. Even though it's scary, I try it anyway. I don't see any harm in trying. So, something I always like to tell people or my students when I was teaching is there's no harm in trying. My best advice for anyone trying to start a small business is to just start. Each time you each time you learn and you try a new business or you try something new like that, you take what you learn and you can apply it to future endeavors, I guess you could say, or even apply it to that business and keep going with that business and just keep trying to improve it. Starting a business is a whole learning practice. It's a practice that you're constantly trying to perfect and get really good at and to make sure that your customers are happy. So leaving teaching was obviously something that was really difficult for me because something I worked hard for quite a few years. But leaving teaching forced me to kind of reinvent myself and obviously reinvent who I am with this chronic condition that I deal with on a daily basis. And from having to be a teacher to learning how to be a business owner and also managing my physical health at the same time and my mental health, of course, as well as being an entrepreneur and just someone who is building a life that feels safe and happy because now I know my worth. Like before, when I was teaching, I was younger. I mean, I started teaching when I was 23, 24. And of course, you're a little bit naive. And I think over the years, with dealing with this kind of health condition, you learn so much about who you are and what your worth is and what the point of life is really. Like, what is your purpose here on this planet? And it's not to be feeling broken down and it's not to be that way. It's to build a life that you feel happy and valued in. And of course, it hasn't always been super easy or straight or linear. It's been messy and it's been imperfect and emotional, but it's mine. It's my business and I feel so thankful that I took the step forward to do these things and to take my life into my own hands. So that's today's unfiltered chat, and I hope that you were able to relate to some things that I was talking about and holding a space for this little chapter of my story. So before you go, I want to leave you with a little something to reflect on. So, what is one thing that you have been scared to start or to try or to do? And what are you going to do this week to take that step forward to doing that thing? If you'd like to, you can send me your answers through message or email, or you can comment below. I'd love to hear your stories. If you do post something about it ever, tag me. I'd love to hear it, or just send it to me privately. I just love hearing what other people are going through. And if it's something similar to my story, then I'd really love to hear. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great week.